Have a good day, dear students. My name is Mayuri Karya. I hope you all are well at your home in this pandemic situation. Today we are studying our first chapter of Standard 8, Social Science, History Ncert based. The book name is our Pasts-3, part 1. The name of first chapter is How, When and Where. In Standard 6, you people have been learned how human being got development, how he became a cultured and civilized human being from the Homo sapien, how he has started to live in a group, how he has started to do a farming and domestication, how they have established different janpadas and mahajanpadas and different kingdoms, how the people have flourished their flora and fauna, and how they established their civilization. That we have learned in Standard 6. In Standard 7, you have learned further, and you have learned about different kingdoms, different culture, different method, or different literature about the different civilization. In Standard 8, you people have to be learned how in human being has been entered in modern era. Okay, so we are starting today's our lecture with first point, how important are dates. There was a time when historians were fascinated with dates. There were heated debates about the dates on which rulers were crowned or battles were fought. In the common sense notion, history was synonymous with dates. You may have heard people say, I find history boring because it is all about memorizing date. Is such a conception true? From student side, every time we people are hearing as it that ma'am, history is too much boring because we have to remember too much dates, or too much means AD or CEs, so additions or C's, so means this people are having this conception that in history we have to remember too much dates. History is certainly about changes that occurs over time. It is about finding out how things were in the past and how things have changed. As soon as we compare the past with the present, we refer to time. We talk of before and after. Means when history certainly about the change, time by time history is being changed. So the people are telling because of dates we came to know that how means time has been changed date by date, era by era. So in this, dates are helping us to show the changes in that era. Living in the world, we do not ask historical questions about what we see around us. We take things for granted. As if what we see has always been in the world we inhabited. But most of us have our moments of wonder when we are curious and we ask questions that actually are historical. Watching someone sip a cup of tea at a roadside tea stall, you may wonder, when did people begin to drink tea or coffee? Looking out of the window of a train, you may ask yourself, when were railways built and how did people travel long distance before the age of railways? Reading the newspaper in the morning, you may be curious to know how people got to hear about things before newspaper began to be printed. Means in day-to-day life, whatever the things you people are observing, whatever the new inventions you people are seeing, and many times you people are wondering when this would have been started, how this things has been started. Okay, for example, I am giving in olden era, India, Chilean potatoes are not being grown. Brave means coffees and teas, or coffee and tea as a beverage is also not being grown. So that particular things having a history, that how that things has been started, who brought this that things in India, who started to cultivate that in India. So these things are having their own history. So how can we know about these histories? We can know about this by to know their dates, their incidents, their stories, how they came in India and how they have been started to grown in India. Okay, so how we can know about all this? We can know about all this from the dates. All such historical questions refer us back to notions of time, but time does not have to be always precisely dated in terms of particular year or a month. Sometimes it is actually incorrect to fix precise date to process that happen over a period of time. People in India did not begin drinking tea one fine day. They developed a taste for it over time. There can be no one clear date for process such as thing. Similarly, we cannot fix one single date on which British rules was established, or the national movement started, or changing took place within the economy and society. All these things happen over a stretch of time. We can only refer to a span of time, an approximately period over which particular changes become visible. Some changes came in our society, we know very well over the period this has been came, but for that we cannot say the precise time, precise date, precise month or precise year. For example, the people have been given that when Indian people have started to drink tea, we cannot say on the precise day, on precise month or precise year. These things has been started by the over the period of time. Why when why then do we continue to associate history with a string of date? This association has a reason. There was a time when history was an account of battle and big events. It was about rulers and their policies. Historians wrote about the year a king was crowned, the year he married, the year he had a child, the year he fought a particular war, the year he died, and the year the next ruler succeed to the throne. For events such as these, specific dates can be determined, and in histories such as these, debates about dates continue to be important. Okay, in first paragraph, the people have been said that means for some events we cannot say the precise time, precise date, precise month or precise year. These things has been occurred over the period of time by the habits, because of some incident. Okay, for the example they have given how Indian people have been habitual to drink tea. In here the people are telling, still means they asking us that if this thing is so, that we cannot say for some event the precise time or precise day or year, so should we keep the records of date? Okay, so for this the people are giving the reason. Yes, for some part, in some cases, in particular cases, we can maintain the date. For that we have to maintain the date. For example, they have given that account of king, when he came on the throne, when he have been born, when he have been married, when he had a child, when he fought the battle, when he succeeded, when he given throne to his successor. Okay, so these things, these events we can maintain in a specific time, in a specific dates. So these are the important dates and that we have to be maintained. As you have seen in the history textbook of the 2 years, historians now write about a host of other issues and other questions. They look at how people earn their livelihood, what they produce, and at how cities developed and markets came up, how kingdoms were formed and new ideas spread, and how culture and society changed. Means these things also, means in history book has been written that what kind of changes, what kind of new things came in Indian means human history, how market has been established, how new people, means foreigner people entered in the country, how means the people have started to live in the country, whatever the cultural changes came in the society, all things the people have been noted in the history book. Which date? By what criteria we do choose a set of date as important? The date we select, the dates around which we compose our story of the past are not important on their own. They become vital because we focus on a particular set of events as important. If our focus of study change, if we begin to look at new issues, a new set of dates will appear significant. Means as we have to, how we can choose the criteria that which dates are important and how we have to be remember, how we have to maintain that we, and these dates are appear significant in the history, that how we can decide. Consider an example. In the history is written by British historians in India. The rule of each governor general was important. This history is begun with the rule of the first governor general Warren Hastings and ended with the last viceroy Lord Mountbatten. In separate chapter, we read about the deeds of others. Hastings, Valley, Bentinck, Dalhousie, Canning, Lawrence, Lytton, Ripon, Curzon, Harding, Irvine. It was a seemingly never-ending succession of governor general and viceroys. All the dates in these history books were linked to this personality, to their activities, policies, achievements. It was as if there was nothing outside their lives that was important for us to know. The chronology of their lives marked the different chapter of the history of British India. Means the people are giving the example in British era, different viceroys, different governor general has came in India, and whatever the work the people have been done, that has been recorded in history with the dates and with the month and year in a precise manner. Okay, so by this the people came to know the chronicle manner of the events what has been happened in different chapter in history. Can we know, can we not write about the history of this period in a different way? How do we focus on the activities of different groups and classes in Indian society within the format of this history of governor general? When we write history or story, we divide it into a chapter. Why do we do this? It is to give each chapter some chance coherence. It is to tell a story in a way that makes some sense and can be followed. In the process we focus only on those events that help us to give shape to the story we are telling. In the histories, the revolve around the life of British Governor General. The activities of Indians simply do not fit. They have no space. What then do we do? Clearly, we need another format for our history. This would mean that the old dates will no longer have the sufficient they earlier had. A new set of dates will become more important for us to know. Okay, here the people are telling in this paragraph that means if we are writing the history about the governor general, we are focusing on them only, and we are remembering that those dates and those things only in the history, that whatever happened or whatever the stories we can see about them, we can means in that only we are focusing on that person. So this format is fit or perfect or not? Actually in this we people are focusing on that governor generals or viceroys only, but we are not focusing on the other people or other civilization or other cultural societies. Okay, so is this format is okay for us? They are asking us. No, because in history we should know about the governor generals also and other civilizations also. So here we need a new format of to write the history. How do we patronized? In 1870s, James Mill, a Scottish economist and political philosopher, published a massive 3-volume book, A History of British India. Okay, here is a picture of history of British India. This is the 3-volume book. In 1817, James Mill, a Scottish economist and political philosopher, published a massive 3-volume book, A History of British India. In this, he divided Indian history into 3 periods: Hindu, Muslim and British. Means in earlier age when Indus Valley civilization and Vedic Kal, at that time Hindu era. After that Delhi Sultanate rulers came, so that has been divided into Muslim, and then British. Means in a modern before colonial, means in a colonial rule Britishers came, that era is a British era. Okay, so he has divided Indian history in this 3 part: Hindu, Muslim and British. This patronization came to be widely accepted. Can you think of any problem with this way of looking at Indian history? Why do we try and divide history into different periods? We do so in an attempt to capture the characteristic of a time, its central feature as they appear to us. So the term through which we patronized, that is democrate, the difference between period become important. They reflect our ideas about the past. They show how we see the significance of the change from one period to the next. Mill thought that all Asian societies were at a lower level of civilization than Europe. According to him, telling of history before the British came to India, Hindu and Muslim despot ruled the country. Religious intolerance, caste taboos, and superstitious practices dominated social life. British rule, Mill felt, could British rule me social life. British rule Mill felt could civilize India. To do this, it was necessary to introduce European manner, arts, institutions, and laws in India. Mill, in fact, suggests that the British should conquer all the territories in India to ensure the enlightenment and happiness of the Indian people. For India was not capable of process without British help. Means in his book, Mill has been written that India was too means not that much developed, or it has been caught in a superstitions, in false belief, and in it was in not that much developed than the European countries. So he is thinking that Britishers should do interference in this situation, then only Indian could be developed, and they developed their means good civilization. For that, to develop a proper in a proper manner civilization, he said that they need a European manners, arts, European institutions, their laws, and their culture, then Indian society can be developed. Otherwise, it is undeveloped society still. In this idea of history, British rule represent all the forces of progress and civilization. The period before British rule was one of darkness. Can such a conception be accepted today? In many cases, can we refer to any period of history as a Hindu or Muslim? Did not a variety of faiths exist simultaneously through the religion of the rules of the time? To do so is to suggests that the lives and practices of the other do not really matter. We should also remember that even rulers in ancient India did not all share the same faith. Okay, what the people are telling here means means Mill is dividing our history into Hindu and then in Muslim. So is it really we have to divide our history in Hindu or Muslim? Because in that era it is not a particular era. If you will note, if you have been noticed in Delhi Sultanate era also, the people are giving means that freedom that anyone can follow their particular religion. That Delhi Mughal Sultanate means sultanates are also allowing people to follow their religion, their culture, their tradition. So at that time also means in Hindus they are following their religion and culture, Muslims were following their religion, their culture. So we cannot divide precisely means a particular era into a Hindu or into a Muslim. Okay, so is this a means particular thing or right thing that we are dividing our history into a Hindu and a Muslim? Moving away from British classification, historians have usually divided Indian history into ancient, medieval, and modern. This division too has its problems. It is a patronage that is borrowed from the West, where the modern period was associated with the growth of all the forces of modernity: science, reason, democracy, liberty, and equality. Medieval was a term used to describe a society where these features of modern society did not exist. Can we uncritically accept this characterism of a modern period to describe the period of our society? As you will see in this book, under British rule, people did not have equality, freedom, or liberty, nor was the period one of the economic growth and process. Many historians therefore refer to this period as a colonial. Okay, so now means Britishers are dividing our Indian history into three parts: Hindu, Muslim, and British. And besides of that, historians divide Indian history into ancient, medieval, and in the modern history. In standard 6, you people have learned about the history that is ancient history, means Vedical history, Indus Valley civilization, how the different Janpadas and Mahajanpadas has been developed, how the different kingdoms, ancient different kingdoms has been developed. In standard 7, you people have seen that after development we have started new kingdoms, new culture, new civilization, new tradition, new literature, many things we have started, new dance forms, many things has been set up. It is being considered in a medieval history. And in 8th standard you people are learning about the history that is modern history, from where means Britishers entered in the, or new foreigners has been entered in the India, and they people have been started to do the business, and after that later on time by time the people have started to rule over the India. That history is being called the modern history. Now that modern era means being considered as a colonial. What is colonial? In this book you will read about the way the British came conquer the country and establish their rules, subjuging local Nawabs and Rajas. You will see how they established control over the economy and society, collected revenue to meet all their expenses, bought the goods they wanted at low prices, produced crop they needed for export, and you will understand the changes that came about as a consequences. You will also come to know about the changes British rules brought about in value and tests, custom and practices. When this subjugation of one country by another leads to this kind of political, economic, social and cultural changes, we refer to the process as colonization. You will however find what all classes and groups did not experiencing these changes in the same way. That is why the book is called Our Past in the plural. Okay. What is colonial? Colonial is related to British era. Okay, now why the colonial rule name came up? For this, it is being called that when Britishers came in India, the people were living in a different colonies. They have established different colonies for their residences, and in a particular areas the people are living together and they have established colony for themselves. That's why what means those who are ruling over the country and living in this colony, that is called the colonial rule or colonial. From that the word came colonial. Okay, so means the people are dealing in this era, means whatever the changes came, how the people have started to take over, means entering the Indian economy, Indian society, how the people have to started to collect the revenue and meet all their expenses, brought the goods and wanted the lower prices, means for what the people are come, and how they started the business with Indian people. That all we will know in this process or in this thing. Okay, thank you students. Today we are keeping our chapter up to here only. Tomorrow we will continue with further. I hope you like this lecture. Thank you so much.